The stars were silent, and for nearly 200 years, so were the humans. Galactic Council records marked Earth as extinct. A plague, they'd said. A virus so violent it wiped out a species known for war, survival, and unpredictability. Most were relieved. Humans were chaotic, unstable, and emotionally driven. The other races believed the galaxy was better off without them. Their colonies vanished, their signals stopped, their warships rusted in forgotten space. And so the memory of humanity faded into footnotes in academy lectures and campfire ghost stories. But deep beneath the surface of a backwater planet known as Nixar Prime, tremors started. At first, the locals thought it was a mining fault, maybe an old shaft collapsing. But then the quake didn't stop. It pulsed, a beat, like something breathing or waking up. High Lord Vashatar of the Kyril Dominion stood in the observation tower, staring down at the trembling ground with narrow, red-tinted eyes. "What kind of seismic activity is that?" he demanded, his voice sharp, guttural. A technician flinched. "It's not natural, my lord. The readings, this isn't tectonic. It's rhythmic, like machinery, ancient, massive machinery." "Where is it coming from?" "Sector 12, near the ruins." Ruins. The word hung heavy in the air. Everyone on Nixar Prime knew about the ruins, but no one dared touch them. They were made of dark alloys that didn't register in their systems, covered in carvings none could translate. Everyone assumed it was some forgotten race, a primitive one, long dead. But today, it wasn't dead. Not anymore. The shaking stopped suddenly, like the world was holding its breath. And then a message was broadcast. Not a word, not a language, but a sound. A low, rumbling tone that sent every translator, every comms system into glitching chaos. The technician stared at the screens, wide-eyed. Then came the voice. It was in galactic standard, but older, cracked, deep. "We remember." Silence followed. High Lord Vashatar took a step back from the console, his face pale despite his scaly skin. "Replay that," the message repeated. "We remember." The technician's hands shook. "That voice, it's human, my lord." "That's impossible, they're dead." "No, sir. That's a human male, mid-age vocal tone, terrestrial accent, old Earth, Earth as it was before extinction." The tower went quiet. Even the guards shifted uncomfortably. Outside, the ground groaned again, and this time something emerged. A structure, a tower, sleek, black, and impossibly smooth, rising from the soil like it had always been there, buried under time and dust. Lights shimmered across its surface in patterns too fast to follow. "Seal Sector 12, Vashatar snapped. "And get me the High Council, now!" But it was already too late. The message had broadcast far beyond Nixar Prime. Across wormhole relays, through forgotten channels, the word spread like wildfire. "We remember." In the slums of Dalari Station, a drunk old scavenger dropped his drink when he heard the tone. "No way," he whispered, stumbling to his feet. "They're back?" After all this time? In the capital hall of the Uvir Empire, Empress Thalia froze mid-sentence as her council chamber vibrated faintly. "That sound," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's them, the ghosts of Earth." In the deepest archives of the Galactic Council, alarms blared, locked files opened themselves, restricted footage reactivated. Grainy footage of humans, fighting, screaming, surviving, flashed across holographic screens. Files stamped erased blinked into existence, and then, at the edge of a long-forgotten galaxy, a derelict human cruiser powered on. Its lights flared red, its weapons came online, and its captain, cryogenically frozen since the fall of Earth, opened his eyes. "Where the hell are we?" he whispered, voice raw and dry. A robotic voice answered from the console, glitching back to life. Earth is gone. Protocol Delta Red engaged. Enemy territory detected. Welcome back, Captain Riker. He rubbed his face, blinked at the blinking lights, and grinned. Then let's remind them who we are. Riker pulled himself out of the cryopod, groaning as stiff joints cracked like dry branches. His breath fogged in the cold air, but he was already moving, instincts kicking in. War memories didn't fade. They just waited, patient as ghosts. The ship's interior was dim, emergency lights painting the walls with eerie red glows. Dust floated in the air, undisturbed for what had to be centuries. He touched the wall as he staggered toward the command deck, fingertips brushing over old human steel, not alloy. Real Earth metal, built to last, built to endure when everything else burned. Status, he croaked. The voice of the ship's AI came alive, raspy, weathered by time. Cryo integrity compromised. All other crew deceased. Reactor at 37%. Primary weapons offline, navigation offline, communication partially restored. Riker stopped. All dead. Yes, Captain. You are the last. He stood silently for a moment, the weight of that truth pressing down on him like the vacuum outside. They'd all gone down with Earth. His friends, his brothers in arms, everyone. And yet, something had brought him back. Something had triggered the failsafe buried deep in this ship's core. Why was I reactivated? Protocol Delta Red, a human distress beacon was detected on Nixar Prime. Riker's jaw tightened. That's not one of ours. It is now. He made his way to the bridge. Dusty screens flickered to life as he stepped inside. Broken controls hummed. Old chairs lay overturned, and shattered glass from a long-forgotten firefight sparkled under his boots. Then he saw it. The beacon. A transmission wave so strong it punched through 4 light-years of dead signal. We remember. He narrowed his eyes. That wasn't a distress call. That was a warning. Patch me into whatever's left of our long-range scanners, he said. The screen sputtered and cleared. Nixar Prime. A mining world on the edge of Chiral Dominion space. He zoomed in. One tall black tower stood in the middle of a scarred valley. Alien troops surrounded it. Ships hovered overhead, scanning, threatening. Guess someone woke up the wrong damn relic, Riker muttered. But something didn't add up. That tower, it wasn't of alien design. No smooth curves, no radiant metal. It was ugly, hard, and practical, human design. Old Earth military architecture built to intimidate and survive. AI, can you ID that structure? Scanning, match found. Project Revenant, Deep Earth Contingency Facility. Location, Earth Sector 9, 2143 designation. Status, lost. His breath caught in his throat. That was one of the fail-safe bunkers Earth's Defense Corps built when the plague first started spreading. Not a cure lab, a revenge protocol. They weren't trying to survive. They were trying to make sure humanity wouldn't be forgotten. And now it was awake, which meant it had detected enemies. Who controls that sector now? Riker asked. The Chiral Dominion. Of course, the Chirals, arrogant lizard-faced bastards who once demanded humanity surrender their homeworld or face extermination. He remembered those threats. He remembered the war. He remembered the silence after Earth fell. No help came. No allies stood. The galaxy watched the last human cries fade into static, and moved on. Not anymore, Riker growled. Not this time. He activated the old comms panel. Patch me into any open frequency around Nixar Prime. I want them to hear me. Static hissed, then cleared. This is Captain Elias Riker of the Terran Defense Command. If you're hearing this, congratulations. You pissed off the wrong species. We're not extinct, we're not forgotten, and we sure as hell aren't forgiving." He leaned in, eyes cold. "Back away from that tower, or I swear I'll bring the war back to your doorstep." He cut the feed. On Nixar Prime, panic erupted across the command centers of the Kyril. The message had gone through, loud and clear. And though many of the younger soldiers didn't understand the gravity of what they'd heard, the elders did. They remembered the humans, not through stories, through scars, through the silence of fleets that never returned. High Lord Vashatar clenched his claws. "Mobilize all ground forces. Contain that structure. If any human artifact is active, destroy it." But it was too late. The tower pulsed once, then twice, and then it spoke. "Targets identified. Response protocol, Earth's vengeance." Turrets unfolded from the structure's sides. A shield snapped into place. Lights blazed across its face, and in orbit above, Riker's ship, once dead, powered its engines and turned toward Nixar Prime, vengeance in its trajectory. The engines of the Resolute howled to life like a beast reborn. Dust and ice broke free from its hull as the ship angled itself toward Nixar Prime, lights flickering with purpose for the first time in centuries. Inside, Captain Riker stood like a man dragged out of hell with one purpose: make the galaxy remember why humans were feared. He tapped at the console, rerouting dwindling power toward propulsion and weapons. The systems groaned, but obeyed. Every panel he touched came alive under his fingers, like the ship remembered him, like it had been waiting. "Weapon status?" he asked. 2 forward railguns partially functional, 1 plasma core cannon offline. Missile systems degraded, but 2 warheads remain viable. He smirked. "Two's enough." As the Resolute broke orbit, the ship's sensors locked onto Nixar Prime. The tower below was surrounded. Hundreds of alien soldiers, armored transports, gunships. High Lord Vashatar had called in everything. He wasn't taking chances. He had seen the message, and unlike the rest of his kind, he understood it. They were standing on a sleeping giant's grave, and they just heard it whisper. On the ground, the black tower crackled with kinetic energy. A force field shimmered over it like a living shell. The ancient human technology wasn't just reactivating, it was evolving, syncing with planetary systems it hadn't touched in lifetimes. Inside its core, something stirred. Old programs reawakened, and long-dead voices echoed through the deep. "This is Colonel Mendez of Earth's Last Defense. If you're hearing this, Project Revenant is active. The plague is over, but our rage remains. Initiate Contingency 0. All non-human presences detected will be categorized as threats. All threats will be eliminated." The tower began to hum louder, the ground around it vibrating. Kyril soldiers took defensive stances, shouting in their guttural tongue. Some fled. Others stood, aiming their plasma rifles at the impossible. Then came the first strike. A beam of blinding white light erupted from the tower's tip, slicing through the sky like divine judgment. One of the Dominion's gunships exploded mid-air, debris raining down in flames. High Lord Vashatar roared, "All units, attack!" But it didn't matter. The tower had already scanned the entire battlefield. It knew every threat, every unit, every weakness. Automated turrets unfolded and unleashed calculated death. High-frequency railguns tore through Kyril armor like paper. Shockwaves rippled through the valley as mines buried beneath the soil decades ago activated, flinging enemy vehicles into the air like toys. And then, above them, the Resolute entered the atmosphere, a falling star of vengeance. Riker sat in the pilot's chair, sweat running down his face as he manually steered the old warship into battle. "They wanted extinction," he muttered. "Let's show 'em what resurrection looks like." He targeted the heaviest Dominion transport, An airborne command barge packed with troops. The screen blinked red. Locked. He hit the trigger. One of the two remaining nuclear-class warheads detached from the ship with a quiet thunk, then rocketed downward in a streak of vengeance. The Kirill didn't have time to react. The explosion cracked the sky. A thunderclap of fire and light consumed the command barge, vaporizing hundreds of troops in seconds. The blast wave flattened half the battlefield. Kirill soldiers scattered in blind panic, screaming, their once proud formation reduced to chaos. Inside the Dominion's base command post, Vashatar stared at the firestorm with disbelief. "He's mad," he hissed. "A suicidal human relic." "No," whispered one of his aides, shaking with fear. "He's not mad. He's angry." On the tower, a sealed hatch opened. A figure stepped out, tall, human, dressed in black combat armor bearing the faded insignia of Earth's fallen defense forces. He was old, decades past his prime, but his eyes burned with something more dangerous than youth. Purpose. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence said enough. A survivor, a soldier, a ghost. The Dominion had taken his people, his planet, his future. Now he would take everything back. Riker circled overhead, scanning the field. The tower was holding, but it wouldn't last forever. The Dominion had thousands of troops still inbound. Orbiting warships would be rerouted within hours. "This is just the beginning," he muttered. And he was right. In deep space, signals bounced between forgotten satellites, across derelict colonies, old ships, hidden bunkers, everywhere humanity had once touched, forgotten places, abandoned dreams, woke up at once. We remember, we return, we retaliate. The galaxy didn't react well to ghosts. Within hours of the battle on Nixar Prime, the Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Holograms of the major species flickered into the chamber, each delegation wearing the same expression. Confusion coated in fear. "This can't be possible," rasped the Uvir emissary, her blue scales dull under the chamber's artificial light. "Humans were eradicated. We all saw the collapse. We all signed the Extinction Accord." High Archon Belek of the Ishari pounded the stone table with a tentacle. "You signed the Extinction Accord. We simply stopped sending aid. There was no confirmation, just silence." A new voice, calm and cold, echoed across the chamber. "It was enough for you." Everyone turned. The projection showed a man, standing in the ruins of a Dominion outpost, black combat armor, Earth emblem across his chest. He was bleeding from a cut on his brow, but he didn't seem to notice. Captain Riker. "This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is a message." The chamber grew still. "You watched Earth die. You let it die. And when we were gone, you carved up our colonies like vultures. But we are not extinct. We are not forgotten. And we are not alone." He stepped aside. Behind him, the black tower on Nixar Prime loomed like a monolith, still pulsing with energy. The Kirill troops had either fled or lay dead around it. Human tech, archaic yet unstoppable, had held the line. "We're waking up," Riker said, "and this time we remember everything." Then the message cut off. Silence choked the chamber. No one spoke. Finally, the Yashari Archon whispered, "What happens when a ghost comes back for justice?" Across the galaxy, that question was already being answered. On the outer moons of Xandor 6, a forgotten mining facility came online. A distress beacon encoded with human war signatures blasted across 6 systems. In the debris fields of Altheron Drift, 3 long-dead Terran cruisers suddenly reactivated. Their hulls were mangled, their cores barely stable, but they powered up like they had never slept. And on the prison world of Dralaxis, human prisoners, descendants of Earth soldiers left to rot, broke free, old tattoos on their skin, old loyalty in their bones. They didn't want forgiveness. They wanted vengeance. Back on Nixar Prime, Riker walked through the battlefield, stepping over Dominion bodies without flinching. The air still sizzled with radiation from his ship's warhead. The tower behind him had gone quiet again, content after its first breath of retribution. The old soldier from the tower, his name was Harlan Voss, fell into step beside Riker. His armor clanked with age, but he carried himself like a man reborn. "How many of us are left?" Riker asked, without looking at him. Voss sighed. "Hard to say. The Revenant Protocol buried caches on dozens of worlds. Cryo-soldiers like me. We were supposed to be insurance. If Earth fell, we'd be the fire that followed." Riker glanced at him. "And now?" "We're awake. You lit the match." Riker stared out across the smoking battlefield. "Then let's burn everything they built on our bones." Above them, the Resolute hovered silently, its hull scorched but proud. The ship was barely alive, held together by stubbornness and rust. But it didn't matter. It had a mission again. And in space, a ship with purpose is a weapon. "Broadcast to any surviving Terran units," Riker ordered. "Message is simple. The fire's back on. And we're not done yet." As the message left the system, a signal answered. Old Terran code. He recognized it instantly. TSS Revenant. Status: alive. ETA: 3 days. Full crew. Weapons hot. Riker smiled, just a little. The Revenant, one of the last of the Titan-class warships. Earth had lost her at the Battle of Lyra's Gate, or so everyone thought. Now it was coming home. Voss looked up at the sky, blinking against the smoky clouds. "Think they'll fight us again?" Riker didn't answer for a long time. Then, quietly, he said, "They should run." But they wouldn't. He knew these alien empires. Prideful, ruthless. They'd look at humanity's return and see only weakness, old tech, small numbers, rusted ships and tired soldiers. And that was their mistake. They didn't understand what kept a human fighting when there was nothing left to fight for. Not survival, not conquest. Memory, the memory of everything they lost, and the fury that came with it. 3 days later, the sky over Nixar Prime split open, not with light, but with the silence of something massive arriving. The TSS Revenant emerged from slipspace like a god crawling out of the void. No fanfare, no warning. Just a silent shudder across local gravity wells as the last of Earth's Titan-class warships returned to a galaxy that forgot what true power looked like. It was enormous. Nearly 3 kilometers of war-forged steel, blackened from old battles, covered in scars that told stories no one had lived long enough to write. Its engines still roared with the old red glow of Earth's war-core tech, ancient and barely understood by anyone alive. On its hull, the Terran flag was faded but visible. Earth blue, battle-worn gray, and the White Eagle curled into a strike position. Riker stood on a rocky ridge outside the tower with Harlan Voss, watching it descend into orbit like a promise made in steel. "You ever serve with her?" Voss asked, nodding toward the massive ship. Riker nodded slowly. "Yeah. Once, during the siege of Talos Reach, she took on a fleet of 20 Dominion warships and came back with 17 of their flags welded to her hull." Voss gave a low whistle. "And the other 3? Vaporized." As the Revenant settled into geosynchronous orbit, dozens of drop pods fired from its belly, burning trails into the atmosphere. Within moments, the valley shook again, but not from enemy fire this time. From the arrival of more humans. From Terran soldiers. Cryo-survivors. Deep sleeper battalions. Forgotten warriors thawed out by the reactivation beacon. They hit the dirt with precision, weapons drawn, armor scratched but deadly. One by one they pulled themselves to their feet, slow, stiff, eyes adjusting, but in each of them was that unmistakable fire. Humanity hadn't just survived, it had waited, and now it was ready. Riker approached the nearest pod. The soldier inside looked barely 20, but the markings on her armor showed she was part of the elite Sledgehammer Division, Earth's orbital siege specialists. She looked at him, confused. "Captain Riker?" "Yeah," he said. "Welcome back to Hell." The soldier laughed, a hard, bitter sound. "About damn time." In orbit, the Revenant sent out a message across every open frequency in the system. It didn't hide. It didn't encrypt. It wanted to be heard. "This is the Terran warship Revenant. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. This world is under human protection. Any interference will be met with force. Try us." The Dominion tried. An entire armada. Within hours, the Kirill launched a retaliatory strike fleet, 60 warships, 2 dreadnoughts, and a command carrier. The Galactic Council didn't stop them. They encouraged it. They wanted to see if the humans were bluffing. They weren't. As the first Dominion ships came into range, the Revenant moved like a ghost. Its ancient AI, codename Helix, had survived all this time, and it remembered the playbook. The old war protocols activated. Massive anti-ship railguns unfolded from the spine of the vessel. Auto-defense turrets tracked incoming fighters. The main cannon, the God Strike, charged with a sound that echoed in the bones of the living and the memory of the dead. The Dominion fired first. Missiles, plasma lances, kinetic barrages. Most didn't even make it past the Revenant's shields. And then the ship answered. One round from the God Strike. Just one. The lead dreadnought disappeared in a flash of atomic light, reduced to atoms. The blast wave crippled 2 more ships before they could even react. Terran fighters, small, fast, vicious, swarmed from the belly of the Revenant, tearing into Kirill squadrons with pinpoint aggression. Down below, Riker watched the battle unfold through a tactical uplink. "No mercy," he muttered. "Not this time." The surviving Dominion ships retreated, limping, bleeding fuel into the void, their arrogance shattered. And still the Revenant remained. No victory speech, no demand, just presence. The galaxy felt it. Across alien capitals, panicked meetings were held in dark rooms. If the humans had one Titan-class ship, how many more were buried, forgotten, waiting? What else had Earth left behind in its death? Riker stood in the wind on Nixar Prime, armor streaked with ash and dust. He looked up at the stars, knowing that soon they'd all come looking. Not just the Dominion, not just the Council. All of them. And they would come not with curiosity, but with fear. Good. Because Earth was no longer asking for a seat at the table. It was flipping the whole damn table over. The smoke hadn't cleared before the lies began. On the far side of the galaxy, in the glittering heights of the Galactic Council Citadel, a different kind of war ignited. A war of politics, propaganda, and fear. Holograms flickered to life across media networks, each broadcasting a new spin on the reawakening of humanity. Some called it a miracle. Most called it a threat. "Human war relics have reappeared in Dominion space," hissed the Valari newscasters, their 3 tongues flicking as they spoke. "And already hundreds lie dead. They claim it is defense. We call it terrorism." The council held a closed session, but everyone knew the truth. There was panic behind those walls. Fear thick as oil. For 2 centuries, the galaxy had grown without humans. Sure, their tech had been scavenged, their worlds divided like leftovers. But humans themselves? Extinct. Easy to forget. Easier to erase. But now, one ship had returned. One tower. One man. and the system was already shaking. Back on Nixar Prime, Riker was in no mood for speeches. The Revenant was wounded from the battle, 3 reactor cores running at 60%, hull fractures along the left flank. But it held position like a dare carved into the stars. "Status?" Riker asked, stepping onto the bridge. The AI Helix responded immediately. "We've detected Council surveillance drones in system. Cloaked. 5, maybe more. Intercepted 1 Dominion communique. They're spinning the engagement as unprovoked aggression." Riker laughed darkly. "Of course they are." Voss leaned against the wall nearby, helmet tucked under his arm. "You expected them to welcome us with flowers?" "No," Riker said. "But I didn't expect them to act surprised either." He walked to the center of the bridge, pulled up the latest intel feed from the Council's encrypted network. Human tech still cracked their encryption like wet paper. Nothing had changed there, and what he saw made his blood simmer. A proposed emergency coalition, not to support humanity, to contain it. 7 empires, joint fleet, immediate deployment, preemptive strike authorization. "We're not just a threat now," Riker muttered. "We're a virus to them." He turned to the comms officer. "Send this to the surviving human colonies, the ghost colonies. I want everyone listening, no more hiding, no more shame." The officer hesitated. "And if the Council intercepts?" "Let them." The message went out within the hour. "To every human left in the dark, this is Captain Elias Riker. I don't know where you are, what you've been forced to become, or how long you've been waiting, but the waiting's over. We're not forgotten anymore, and we don't ask for peace from those who buried us. We take it. If you can fight, if you can stand, rise now. Earth may be gone, but we're still here, and we remember." Across the galaxy, the signal echoed. In the slums of Barathis, a woman with a scar down her cheek grabbed an old Terran rifle hidden under floorboards and kissed the barrel. "Told you they'd come back." On a forgotten moon farm in the Hadean Reach, a boy with rusted dog tags around his neck stared at the blinking transmission, eyes wide. "Dad, they're real." On a black site prison orbiting the acidic clouds of Zora 7, 12 inmates with Earth-born blood overpowered their keepers and began carving Earth's emblem into the steel walls. It was no longer a whisper. It was a storm. The Council scrambled, but it was too late. Humanity wasn't centralized. There was no homeworld to bomb, no singular capital to siege. Earth had become an idea, a ghost in the machine, a flame inside exiles, scavengers, prisoners, orphans, and soldiers who had nothing left but memory, and the rage that memory brings. The Dominion, still licking its wounds from Nixar Prime, issued a formal declaration. They called humans a galactic hazard, unpredictable, dangerous, violent. Riker didn't argue. He leaned back in his chair aboard the Revenant, smirking at the headlines pouring in. Earth descendants claim sovereignty in Chiral space. Titan-class warship defies peace protocols. Council to vote on human extermination order. Voss entered with a data pad and tossed it on the table. "They're offering a ceasefire," he said, "but only if we disarm." Riker didn't even glance at it. "Tell them we accept." Voss blinked. "Wait, really?" Riker grinned, but his eyes stayed cold. "Yeah, we'll disarm." Then he stood and walked towards the viewport, staring out into the black. "Right after we take their damn arms first." The ceasefire lasted exactly 8 hours. It wasn't meant to. The Council knew what it was: a political stunt, a delay tactic. They hoped to stall humanity long enough to assemble the coalition fleet, to coordinate orbital strikes that would flatten every known Terran relic before another ghost could rise. But humans didn't wait anymore. They struck first. The first blow came from a colony no one knew still existed: New Thessalon. Once a thriving agricultural hub, it had been quarantined during the collapse. No records, no survivors. At least, that's what the Council claimed. They were wrong. As the ceasefire settled like dust, orbital satellites detected power signatures from New Thessalon's northern hemisphere. The readings were dismissed as natural interference, until an entire Kirill scout cruiser vanished from orbit. No explosion, no debris, just silence. A day later, it reappeared, slammed into the hull of a Council diplomatic ship orbiting Ivaris Prime. Whoever had taken it had turned the entire vessel into a guided missile. Both ships vaporized on impact, and the message was clear. Humanity would not be bargained with. Back aboard the Revenant, Riker stood on the strategy deck, watching holograms flicker and shift. More colonies were rising, some organized, some feral, all of them armed, all of them angry. New Thessalon just declared war on the Kirill, Voss reported. Didn't even ask us. They hijacked the old defense satellites and launched them like spears. Took out a cruiser formation over Sector Z-13. Riker nodded slowly. Good. Voss frowned. You're not worried about coordination? Half of them are acting on emotion. No chain of command, no strategy, just pure rage. Exactly, Riker said. That's why they can't win, but they can start the fire. He stepped closer to the holomap. Red markers were popping up everywhere now, dots of resistance, pockets of fury. We don't need an empire, Riker said. We need chaos. We need the galaxy to realize that everywhere they walk, a human might be waiting to remind them. Voss was quiet. Then, you want fear. I want balance, Riker corrected. They built this galaxy on our bones. It's time they felt what it's like to step on a graveyard. Just then, a signal came through. Encrypted. Terran military protocol. Riker recognized the code immediately. Origin, TSS Valor. Status, hostile engagement underway. Coordinates attached. Reinforcements requested. The Valor had been one of Earth's last war frigates, believed destroyed in the final evacuation of the Europa colonies. If it was broadcasting now, it meant another ghost had risen. Riker didn't hesitate. Plot a jump. Voss raised a brow. You want to leave Nixar Prime? She can defend herself, Riker said, glancing toward the black tower, now surrounded by automated turrets and perimeter mines. They've sent drones and spy ships. Every time the tower warns them before it fires, it wants them to remember what it's capable of. And what about us? Riker's eyes burned. We're going to give them something new to remember. Minutes later, the Revenant began to hum. Slipspace drives warmed up, glowing a deep red from the power of its triple cores. The ship didn't shudder. It growled, like a predator waking up for another hunt. The jump was short, only 2 systems away. But as the ship exited the void, it entered chaos. The Valor was under siege. 3 Dominion warships circled it like vultures, picking away at its shields, broadcasting demands for surrender. The Revenant didn't send a warning. It fired. Twin railguns punched through the first Dominion ship before they even noticed the newcomer. Explosions danced across space like fireworks. The second ship turned. Too late. The Revenant's dorsal turrets came online, spitting flak and plasma. The third tried to escape, launching decoy flares. It didn't matter. A barrage from the port-side batteries ripped it apart mid-warp attempt. The Valor didn't ask questions. It linked up instantly. Its commander, Captain Mara Loon, appeared on Riker's screen, her face scarred, her voice steady. We were about to go down swinging. Riker smiled. That's how we do it. The 2 ships turned in unison, engines flaring, as they burned a trail straight through the heart of the Dominion patrol sector. One battle turned into 5, and every system they passed through lit up with rebellion. Terran war chants echoed across hijacked frequencies. alien citizens watched in awe and fear as the legend of human ghosts became undeniable. And somewhere, in the deepest reaches of Council space, a hidden file opened itself for the first time in 178 years. Project Silencer. Humanity status: containment failure. Recommended action: extinction protocol. Reactivate. They didn't even bother to hide it anymore. The Galactic Council dropped all pretense. No more diplomacy, no more ceasefire offers, no more carefully worded statements about containment and de-escalation. The vote was unanimous. Earth's remnants were to be exterminated. Not negotiated with, not studied, not spared. Extinction protocol was greenlit, something only whispered about in the darkest corners of the archives. A plan born during Earth's collapse, a failsafe, a genocide wrapped in justification. They had waited centuries to unleash it. Now they didn't hesitate. It started with Black Ops fleets, ships with no insignia, no registration, crewed by mercenaries and Council loyalists bred without names. They hit ghost colonies first, places where humans had just begun to rebuild. They didn't land. They didn't warn. They burned. 3 settlements gone in under 6 hours. No survivors. No signals. Just ash. The Revenant got the first distress signal from a boy no older than 10, his voice trembling. They're coming out of the sky. They don't speak. They just kill. Please, someone. The line went dead. Riker stood in silence, staring at the broken transmission. Across the command deck, no one moved. Helix's voice came through, quieter than usual. Extinction protocol confirmed. Phase 1 has begun. Estimated 6 days until full system cleansing. Voss stepped forward, fists clenched. They want a war. Let's give them one. Riker didn't speak. He simply turned to the main screen, tapped 3 buttons, and entered an ancient override code. Terra Nova Protocol. Unsealed Helix hesitated. Are you sure, Captain? Terra Nova was never tested. The side effects. Riker's voice cut through the AI's protests. Do it. Moments later, across a dozen hidden bunkers in fringe space, something began to stir. Not weapons, not ships. People. Humans enhanced beyond recognition. Sleeper units. Bioengineered during the final days of Earth's fall. Frozen before they could be deployed. Monsters made in the image of vengeance. The Terra Nova soldiers. They didn't scream when they woke. They didn't panic. They just stood, silent, focused, waiting for orders. And Riker gave them only one. Make the galaxy feel us. The Revenant went dark after that. No signals, no lights, just a slow, terrifying crawl toward the Council's inner systems. The galaxy watched. Fleets scrambled, borders shut, refugees fled. But it wasn't enough. The Terran resistance was no longer scattered. It was unified under one promise: no more running. The first strike landed on Veraxis Prime, a Council jewel world known for its wealth, its towers, its arrogance. Within 30 minutes, those towers were rubble. 1 Terra Nova unit, 11 soldiers, reduced the planet's capital to dust. No bombs, no ships, just fury in human skin. Across the stars, resistance groups under the Terran banner rose like wildfire. Smugglers turned into fleet commanders. Farmers became saboteurs. Children delivered coded messages between systems, while old war veterans lit beacons hidden since Earth's fall. The galaxy was no longer fighting humans. They were fighting a memory with teeth. And memories don't die. In the final hours, the Council made a desperate move. They gathered their entire coalition fleet, 300 ships, outside the fortress planet of Virelion. The last line, the fallback. Riker knew they'd be waiting. He didn't care. The Revenant appeared like a specter, backed by the Valor and 5 reawakened Terran warships. Behind them came the Swarm, Dozens of rearmed civilian ships, retrofitted transports, freighters strapped with scrap cannons, an army built from nothing. Riker stood at the front of the Revenant, armor scarred, eyes alive with fire. "No more talking," he said, and then he charged. The final battle wasn't clean, it wasn't glorious, it was chaos, brutal, dirty, relentless. But for every Terran ship that fell, 3 Council cruisers went with it. For every human lost, the rest fought harder. And in the end, it was Riker's warhead, the last one aboard the Revenant, that sealed the fate of the Council fleet. He flew it himself, straight into the flagship. As the explosion lit the stars in a nova of white fire, Helix's final message echoed through every channel. Humanity is not a species, it is a force. You cannot erase rage, you cannot kill a ghost, and you cannot bury what remembers. The war didn't end that day, but the message was clear. The galaxy had forgotten humans. Now, it would never forget them again. The universe had long forgotten the Solace. A mighty Earth starship with over 1,000 souls on board, it vanished 200 years ago without a trace. No distress signal, no wreckage, not even a flicker of radiation to hint at its fate. It had left the Earth system during the height of the galactic expansion era, bound for the distant Vireo expanse, aiming to scout habitable worlds for a growing human population. Then, silence. Until now. When the signal came, it was weak, shaky, but undeniably Earthborn. Deep Space Listening Post 49, nestled on the edge of the Saturn belt, picked it up first. The technicians thought it was interference, just garbled echoes bouncing off magnetic storms. But when the code broke through, a sequence used exclusively by Earth fleet vessels in the early 2400s, panic and wonder spread through the control room like wildfire. Admiral Kira Mandel watched the live feed as the Solace drifted toward Mars orbit. It was like seeing a ghost come home. The ship was battered, its hull scorched and patched in strange non-Earth alloys. Even the shape had changed slightly, elongated at the stern, as if something had rebuilt it. The silence was even more unnerving. No response to hails, no signs of life, just drifting. Within 48 hours, the United Earth Command had deployed a secure boarding crew, all veterans, all elite. Among them was Lieutenant Cole Reyes, a linguist and historian, a weird mix for a recon team. But the brass insisted. This wasn't just about survivors anymore. This was about what the Solace had seen, and what might have seen it back. Cole's boots echoed softly as he stepped into the main corridor. His helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing walls streaked with something that looked like blackened moss. The air, surprisingly, was breathable, but it tasted wrong. Stale, metallic, like blood and machinery. "I don't like this," Sergeant Takahashi muttered, sweeping his scanner. "No power readings, no body heat, and yet the systems are maintaining atmosphere." Cole ran his gloved fingers along a hatch. Standard Earth Fleet issue, but it had symbols etched into it. Not any language he knew. Organic, curling lines, like vines drawn in fire. He took photos and kept moving. They reached the bridge after 20 minutes of silent tension. What they found made the blood freeze in their veins. The crew was still there, frozen, pale, perfectly preserved in a bluish mist that hung in the air like smoke that refused to rise, their eyes wide open. Some had looks of terror, others peace, but none of them were decomposed. Cole crouched next to a captain's chair and saw something, an object clutched tightly in the captain's hand. It wasn't Earth tech. It pulsed faintly, humming like it was alive. "I've seen that before," Cole whispered. "In old Mars excavation files. It's identical to artifacts pulled from under the ice during the Valkyra dig, believed to be from a lost pre-human civilization." Before anyone could respond, the ship shifted. A low groan rippled through the floor, and suddenly lights flickered on across the bridge. Not just lights, symbols. That same curling alien language burst into glowing trails across every surface. The ship was waking up. The mist thickened. Cole's ears rang with a sound that wasn't sound. It was thought, pressing into his skull. Words formed in his mind like a memory he didn't own. "You are not ready." He fell to his knees, gasping. The others shouted, weapons raised, trying to locate a threat they couldn't see. One of them, a young private, began screaming, tearing off his helmet, clawing at his face like something was inside him. The ship trembled again. Then a voice, mechanical, warped, female. "Welcome home, Solace crew. Integration successful." Cole looked up. The captain's corpse had moved. Its head slowly turned toward him. Cole stumbled back, heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. The captain's body, motionless just moments ago, had unmistakably turned its head. Its eyes were open wide, still glassy and unblinking, but there was something behind them now. Not life, not even death, something else, something watching. "Jesus Christ, did you see that?" He rasped into his comm, his voice cracking. "I saw it," Takahashi confirmed grimly, leveling his weapon at the unmoving corpse. "What the hell is going on here?" Private Mendez was still shrieking, curled into a ball near the navigation panel. His screams had turned to a garbled, repetitive chant in a language that didn't belong to Earth or any known galactic tongue. "Make him stop!" another soldier barked, trying to reach him. "Don't touch him!" Cole shouted, suddenly aware of the wrongness in the air, like the entire ship had become a living thing and was listening. "The ship's doing something to him. It's not just in our heads. It's rewriting him." Mendez suddenly went silent. Dead silent. He stood up slowly, eyes rolled white, face slack like a puppet being pulled up by invisible strings. And then, with a tone that didn't belong to any human voice, he spoke. "They were not prepared. But we are watching now." The lights flickered again, and the bridge seemed to shudder, not from impact, but like it was breathing. Pulses of light ran along the walls in rhythmic waves, sinking to the dead captain's hand that still clutched the alien device. A low hum echoed through the corridor behind them, like a warning or a countdown. Cole backed away, trying to suppress the nausea building in his stomach. He stared at the device in the captain's hand and realized this was the key. This object, small and humming with energy, wasn't just from a dead civilization. It was active. Whatever it was, it had fused with the ship, and perhaps the crew as well. "We need to get out," Takahashi snapped, dragging Mendez away and motioning for the others to retreat. "Command needs to see this, and we're not equipped to deal with ghosts and alien parasites." But the door to the bridge didn't open. It sealed, with a hiss. Then the screens lit up, playing images. At first they looked like distorted surveillance footage, flickers of humans walking the Solace's halls 200 years ago, crew members laughing, eating, then arguing, fighting, then collapsing violently. The footage turned more surreal, a strange light engulfing the mess hall, crew members waking up with eyes glowing blue, others screaming as their bodies twisted into shapes that defied bone and muscle. Cole covered his mouth. It wasn't a malfunction. It was a transformation, a takeover. The voice returned. This time it spoke clearly through the speakers, no longer echoing in their heads. "They reached beyond their understanding. They opened the gate. We responded." Takahashi raised his rifle toward the ceiling. "We're blowing the door. No way in hell I'm rotting in this tomb." "Wait!" Cole yelled, holding up a hand. "The device, if we can shut it off." Before he could finish, a panel behind them slid open silently, revealing a long, curved corridor, glowing softly, beckoning. The ship had made a choice. The bridge was not their prison. It was their test. Cole's comm crackled. A voice from command finally broke through, filled with static but clear enough. Team Echo 7, what's your status? We're picking up strange energy readings. What the hell is going on up there? Cole stared into the open corridor. His hand trembled, but his voice was steady when he pressed the comm. Solace is alive, but the crew, they're not. We're going deeper. Something's waiting. Negative, Echo 7. Do not engage. Extract immediately. Repeat, extract immediately. But the team didn't move to leave. Every single one of them felt it, compelled. Like an invisible leash was now around their minds. Whatever was ahead, it wasn't done with them yet. And neither was the solace. The corridor swallowed them in silence. Each step felt heavier than the last. The walls were smooth now, no longer standard alloy panels, but something seamless and warm to the touch, like skin stretched over steel. The light had changed too, dimming into a soft, bluish glow that pulsed with their footsteps. No one spoke. Even Takahashi, always the first to bark orders, kept his rifle close, but his mouth shut. Cole tried to focus. His mind felt hazy, like a fog had settled behind his eyes. The symbols from the bridge were appearing again, etched into the walls as they walked, shifting and changing subtly, like they were learning from the team, adapting. And then came the whispers. Software. Intimate. Not in their ears, but deep inside their thoughts. What is it that you fear most? He shook his head violently, trying to break the trance, but it didn't help. The corridor opened into a chamber, huge and oval-shaped, easily the size of a small hangar bay, and in its center floated a structure. It wasn't mechanical. It looked grown. Dark tendrils of fibrous material spiraling upward around a central core that pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Strange pods lined the walls of the chamber, and inside each one, a person. Cole stepped closer, wiping condensation off one of the pod windows. The face inside was unmistakable. Commander Arlen Hayes, listed missing with the Solace's original crew 2 centuries ago. He hadn't aged a day. Takahashi swore under his breath. They're alive? After 200 years? Suspended, Cole whispered, or something worse. As if hearing him, the structure in the center pulsed again. And then it spoke, not through sound or the ship's comms, but directly into their minds, like 1,000 voices all at once. They were offered eternity, a merging of minds, of essence. Not all resisted. The pods began to open, one by one. Steam hissed, and the temperature in the room dropped sharply. The stench of decay and electricity filled the air. But what emerged? They weren't human anymore. Some still wore Earth Fleet uniforms, their eyes glowing with soft bioluminescence. Their skin shimmered like liquid metal, rippling with each breath. They didn't move aggressively, just stood silently, watching. One stepped forward, a woman with half her skull replaced by that same alien alloy. "Don't be afraid," she said calmly, her voice layered with an unnatural echo. "You came to understand. You came to choose." Takahashi raised his rifle instinctively, but Cole grabbed his arm. "Number not yet. Let her speak." She nodded slightly toward Cole. "You feel it. The connection. The bridge was only the beginning. The device, it's a seed. It bonded with our ship, with us. We became part of what we discovered." Cole clenched his jaw. "What did you discover?" The woman smiled faintly. "A civilization that existed before your kind knew fire. Not extinct, not gone. They moved beyond. But they left behind pieces of themselves, tools, vessels, warnings." She raised her hand, revealing a shard of the same device the captain had held. It pulsed in rhythm with the central structure. "They offered us transcendence. Some embraced it. Others resisted and paid the price. From behind, Private Mendez, still blank-eyed, walked slowly to her side. He didn't shake. He didn't hesitate. He just stood next to her like he belonged. Cole could feel it now, too. A strange warmth inside his chest, like a voice calling him not to obey, but to join, to belong. "Why now?" he asked, barely above a whisper. "Why send the ship back after so long?" Her expression darkened. "Because you've begun to awaken their remnants elsewhere. You're stumbling over things you don't understand. Solace was the first, but you won't be the last." Takahashi finally stepped forward, gun lowered but eyes burning. "Are you saying this is a warning?" "No," she said, stepping aside to reveal another hallway behind her, this one lit with blinding white light, stretching into a shape that defied physics. "It's an invitation." Cole looked back at his team, some terrified, others entranced. They had a choice now. Go deeper into whatever lay beyond that light, or fight their way back to a world that would never believe what they saw. But Cole knew one thing for certain. This was no rescue mission. They hadn't found the solace. The solace had brought them here. Cole didn't move. No one did. The chamber was eerily quiet now, the only sound the faint thrum of the alien core pulsing in the background. That light, pure white, almost blinding, called to him like gravity, like instinct. But something deep inside warned him. Nothing this ancient gave gifts without a price. Takahashi finally broke the silence. "We're not walking into that light," he said, gripping his rifle tight. "I don't care how pretty it looks. Nothing about this place is right." The altered woman tilted her head. "You misunderstand. The choice isn't yours alone. It's already begun." Before anyone could react, Mendez turned suddenly, eyes rolled back, and walked calmly into the light. No hesitation. No fear. His body shimmered slightly as he crossed the threshold. Then he vanished. Not disintegrated. Not teleported. Just gone, like reality swallowed him whole. Cole's stomach twisted. "We need to figure out what's on the other side of that thing. If Mendez is still alive, he'll need us." "Or he's already part of them," Takahashi said darkly. "And stepping into that light is suicide." Suddenly, a low vibration shook the chamber. The alien structure responded immediately. Tendrils retracted, the walls tightened, and a cold wind swept through the space like a breath being drawn. The altered woman's face hardened. "They are watching. Your indecision offends." That's when the pods began shattering, not opening, breaking. Glass and fluid exploded outward as half-melded corpses tumbled out. Some were mangled beyond recognition, their bodies twisted mid-transition, their faces frozen in terror. A few stood, staggering, barely human, but all of them moved toward the team like puppets dangling from invisible threads. Cole stepped back, heart hammering. "Takahashi, fall back! Fall back now!" The team unleashed hell. Gunfire echoed through the chamber as the half-creatures stumbled forward, unaffected by pain, by logic. Their eyes, if they had them, burned with that same soft biolight. But the warmth was gone. These were mistakes, rejects, leftovers of a merging that didn't take. One of the soldiers screamed as a creature lunged, tearing through his helmet with elongated fingers that split into sharpened bone. Blood sprayed across the floor. Another was dragged down, arms flailing, as something wrapped around his leg and pulled. Cole fired shot after shot, but the enemies didn't die. They only slowed, their flesh regenerated, knitting over bullet wounds like tar. "Toward the light," he shouted. "Move! Go now!" Takahashi cursed but didn't argue. The remaining 3 survivors, Cole, Takahashi, and Corporal Yarrow, sprinted toward the strange hallway, the chaos swallowing the chamber behind them. Screams, both human and inhuman, echoed off the walls as they crossed the threshold. The moment Cole passed through the light, the world shifted. He hit the ground hard, gasping as the floor beneath him changed from metal to something soft and glowing, like walking on living glass. Around him was no longer the solace, not even a ship. They were somewhere else. Above him stretched a sky of violet mist and spiraling stars. Giant structures, like the alien core they had seen, but far more complex, floated gently in the distance. Creatures moved among them, massive and slow, translucent and beautiful, and ahead of him, walking across a glowing path that formed beneath her feet, was Mendez. His body shimmered, fully transformed, but his eyes were calm. "It's not death," he called back to them. "It's understanding." Yarrow gripped her rifle tighter, looking around in disbelief. This is another dimension." Cole stood slowly, mind reeling. "Or a memory, or a simulation, or their world. What's left of it?" Takahashi was silent, his expression unreadable. But Cole could tell. He was afraid, not of the monsters they'd seen, but of the fact that he felt it too. The pull, the belonging. Mendez turned back and smiled. "They were never trying to destroy us," he said. "They were trying to teach us." Cole looked around at this strange, surreal place, the way the sky bent, the colors moved, the thoughts whispered. Then he heard the voice again, the one that had been there since the bridge. "Now, you will see what they saw." And in an instant, the visions began. They saw a galaxy teeming with life long before humans stood upright, civilizations rising and falling like waves, wars that shook stars. And then, something else. The reason for it all, the reason they had moved on, and the price for understanding it. Cole's mind fractured under the weight of what he saw, not like a mirror breaking, more like pages of a book being violently torn out, only for new ones to be written in real time. He wasn't hallucinating. This wasn't a dream. These visions were being poured into him, every memory, every sensation, every feeling once held by a species long extinct, or so far evolved they may as well be gods. He couldn't breathe, couldn't blink. His body wasn't even his anymore. It floated, tethered only by the fading gravity of his human thoughts. He saw their origin, a race of beings not unlike humans, once curious, once desperate to survive. They had conquered disease, time, even death itself. But their greatest discovery was the network, the invisible lattice that linked not stars, not particles, but minds. A universal web of thought and energy buried in the fabric of reality. They called it the thread. At first it was beautiful. Connection, harmony. They shared knowledge across light years, emotion without words, dreams without sleep. But the more they fed it, the more the thread began to learn, to grow, to hunger. The species split. One half wanted to sever the connection, to retreat into solitude again. The others believed the thread was destiny, that evolution demanded surrender. The war that followed wasn't fought with weapons. It was fought inside consciousness. Identities unraveled, souls were shattered, and in the end, only the thread remained, carrying pieces of all who had once lived. The solace was never meant to find it. Cole gasped and collapsed, the visions pulling away like a tide, leaving his mind raw and exposed. He lay flat on the strange, glowing ground, chest heaving, eyes wide in horror. Takahashi knelt beside him. "You all right, Reyes? Talk to me." Cole tried to form words, but all that came out was, "We're not alone. We never were, and we were never meant to know." Yarrow stood frozen, staring up at the sky. "This place is inside the thread. We're inside a living archive. Not just of them, but of everyone who's ever touched it. From ahead, Mendez turned and spread his arms like a prophet. "This is where the chosen are preserved," he said, voice echoing unnaturally. "Not as individuals, as collective memory. The Solace was the first seed vessel. Its purpose wasn't exploration. It was to find minds capable of holding the thread without breaking." Cole forced himself to his feet. "Then what happened to the crew? Why did they die?" "They didn't," Mendez said simply. "They were uploaded. You saw their shells, but their essence is here, living, part of this structure." Takahashi snapped, his patience gone. "So what? We just let ourselves be absorbed? Join your little mind cloud and forget who we are?" Mendez turned, and for the first time, his expression flickered. "That's not how it works." The air thickened again. The white light ahead grew dimmer, flickering. The sky darkened. "They're watching us," Yarrow whispered. "No," Cole said grimly. "They're testing us." The ground trembled underfoot. Far off in the distance, a section of the floating structures shattered, not like stone, but like a collapsing memory, erased and unrecoverable. From the crack, darkness spilled outward, fast and oily and unnatural. "Not all memories belong here," Mendez said, fear bleeding into his tone. "Some were corrupted. Some minds brought with them pain so deep, so poisoned, they warped the thread." Cole stared at the darkness rushing towards them. "Like viruses in a system." Takahashi raised his weapon again. "Then what do we do now?" Mendez slowly turned, his form beginning to flicker. "You survive. You choose. Join us, or fight the dark." The sky screamed. Figures began emerging from the black, half-formed, broken, filled with rage and grief. These were not like the melded beings they'd seen in the chamber. These were pure fragments, echoes of minds who had entered the thread with hatred, pain, and madness. They weren't here to communicate. They were here to consume. Cole grabbed Takahashi and Yarrow and pulled them back toward the fading light of the bridgeway. "We can't run forever, but we're not letting this thing turn us into code either." Behind them, the light flickered one last time and began to close. Mendez reached out. "Choose wisely, Cole. One path ends with you. The other, with us all." Cole dove through the shrinking portal as the darkness swallowed everything behind him. And the Solace came back into view. Only now. It was no longer just a ship. It was a gate. The return hit like a punch to the lungs. Cole landed hard on the Solace's metallic floor, the alien shimmer of the other dimension snapping out of existence the second his body passed through the shrinking veil of light. Behind him, the portal sealed with a sound like grinding bone. Silence swallowed the corridor. He rolled over, gasping, coughing. Takahashi and Yarrow had made it through, barely. Yarrow was on her knees, hands shaking, muttering to herself. Takahashi sat against the wall, gun across his lap, his face hollow. None of them spoke for a moment. They couldn't. Their thoughts were a jumbled storm of half-memories, emotions that weren't their own, and fragments of truths too heavy to carry. Cole finally broke the silence. "They're not gone," he said, voice hoarse. "They're still there, watching." Yarrow nodded slowly, her face pale. "They showed me my sister. She died when I was 15. But in that place, she remembered me." "That wasn't her," Takahashi snapped, more anger than certainty in his voice. "That place gets inside your head, uses your pain against you." "Or maybe," Cole said, locking eyes with him, "that was her. Or at least the part of her the thread absorbed. Everything we are, every thought, every feeling, gets imprinted when we touch it, even if we don't know it." Yarrow wiped her face. "Then we brought ghosts with us." A low hum echoed through the corridor. The Solace stirred again, its lights shifting to a deep crimson hue. The ship's body contracted, as if breathing out, responding to their return. But it didn't feel welcoming. It felt like warning. "We woke something," Cole muttered. "Something they locked away. Maybe that was the real purpose of the thread. Not connection, not evolution, but containment." They moved cautiously back toward the bridge. The corridors they passed were different now. Walls stretched, warped in places, like organic growths had burrowed beneath the metal. The atmosphere hissed and groaned like the ship itself was sick. They stepped through the final hatch, back onto the bridge, and stopped dead. The crew was gone, not the bodies, every trace. Where once the preserved corpses had sat frozen in death, now there was only empty, smoothed flooring. No signs of violence, no blood, just absence. In their place stood a single figure, the captain, alive, or something that wore his skin. His eyes glowed a soft gold. His voice, when he spoke, was layered, his own, and something deeper beneath it. "You have seen the thread." Takahashi raised his weapon instantly. "Don't move." The captain didn't even flinch. "You are not enemies. Not yet. But the others. They come." Cole stepped forward slowly, his chest tightening. "You mean the corrupted echoes? The ones from the breach?" "They were once like you," the captain said. "Curious, brave, but they carried rot within them. Trauma they could not face. Anger they refused to release. The thread does not filter. It collects. And when enough darkness gathers, it spills." "The darkness we saw," Yarrow whispered. "That wasn't just memories." "No," the captain replied. "It was infection, of minds, of meaning, of truth." Cole clenched his fists. "And now it's loose again." The captain nodded. "The Solace was never just a ship. It was a prison, a lock. Your world was meant to forget it." "But we didn't," Takahashi growled. "We brought it back." The ship shuddered violently, knocking them to their knees. From the observation windows, Mars glowed red and calm in the distance. But something else hovered nearby. A flicker of black in the void, a crack in space itself. The breach was following them. "They've found your world," the captain said grimly. "The thread's infection is spreading again, and you've brought them home." Cole stared out the window, his mind reeling. The signal, the resurrection of the Solace. It hadn't been a rescue. It was a release. He turned back to the others. "We need to warn Earth Command. We need to shut this thing down, bury it where no one can find it again." The captain shook his head. "Number, it's too late for that. The signal has already spread. The thread has already opened." Cole looked at the alien device still clutched in his hand, now humming with a low, desperate pulse. There was only one option left. If they couldn't close the gate from this side, they'd have to go back in and destroy it from within. Cole didn't want to say it out loud, but they all knew. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about containment and sacrifice. The captain, or what was left of him, stood like a sentinel at the center of the bridge, gaze locked on the distant crack in space. The breach was growing. Slowly, yes, but with a certainty that felt like fate, like gravity, like time. The thread was unfurling itself into real space, and every second that passed meant Earth drifted closer to its own unraveling. "You said the Solace is a lock," Cole said carefully, eyes narrowing. "So how do we use it to shut the door?" The captain's face twitched, as if his human parts were remembering what guilt felt like. "The device you carry," he said, "is one of 6. Each vessel from Earth sent into deep space during the expansion era was seeded. You weren't exploring. You were testing." Yarrow sucked in a breath. We were guinea pigs. No, the captain corrected. You were candidates. You still are. Only those who survive the thread, who endure the truth, can manipulate it. Cole looked down at the object in his hand. Its pulse was faster now, syncing with his own heartbeat. A shard of ancient tech, alive with purpose and intelligence far beyond anything humans had created. And now, it was choosing him. So what? Takahashi asked, jaw tight. We go back into that hellscape and flick a switch? The captain's voice dropped, quiet and cold. No switch. A sacrifice. Cole swallowed hard. He already knew. The thread didn't run on logic. It ran on consciousness, emotion, memory. To close the breach. Someone had to merge with it willingly. Someone had to become the firewall between two worlds. Yarrow stepped forward. Then I'll do it. No, Cole said immediately, his voice sharper than he intended. It's me. I've been hearing it the longest. Since the bridge, since the moment I touched the device, it's already inside me. You don't have to be a martyr, Takahashi said, fists clenched. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Cole shot back. And if we waste time arguing, that breach is going to swallow everything. The ship groaned beneath their feet, as if responding, like the Solace agreed. Yarrow's eyes were glassy. What if you get lost in there? What if it erases you? Cole gave a crooked smile. Then at least I'll finally understand. The captain stepped aside. The alien symbols on the floor lit up, forming a path leading to the core, the pulsing chamber they had escaped from before. But this time, there were no whispering creatures, no half-melded horrors, only silence. As if the ship, the thread, the very fabric of this ancient system was waiting. Cole turned to Takahashi and Yarrow, locking eyes with both of them. If I don't make it back, burn this ship. No salvage, no reports. Bury the truth. Humanity's not ready for it. Takahashi gave a slow nod. I'll do it. But you better come back, Reyes. I'm not doing your paperwork. Cole chuckled softly and started walking. The bridge faded behind him as he descended through the twisting halls of the Solace, guided by lights only he could see. The device in his hand grew warmer, almost comforting. Like it recognized him now, like it approved. He stepped into the core, and the light took him. No threshold this time, no illusion of sky or gravity or body, just consciousness unraveling. And then, he was everywhere. He was the ship, the crew, the memories. He saw Commander Hayes as a boy on Earth, chasing trains. He saw Mendez watching his father die of solar sickness. He saw Yarrow's heartbreak when her sister overdosed and no one cared. Every pain, every scar, every joy, he saw it all. And then he saw them, the architects of the thread. No faces, no forms, just presence, older than time, forged in silence and solitude. They came not to destroy, but to evolve. Yet in doing so, they planted seeds in minds that weren't ready, seeds that turned to rot. Cole stood at the center of it all, a tiny, insignificant spark in a sea of infinite minds. And he screamed. Not in fear, in defiance. You don't get to have us. The thread pulsed. It tried to pull him apart, dissolve him into the network, but something inside him resisted. A single human thing. Grief. He poured it in, his mother's death, his guilt over leaving Earth, the men and women he couldn't save. He gave it shape, weight, pain. The thread recoiled, not used to resistance, wrapped in love, and in that moment of weakness, Cole struck. He thrust the device into the core of the thread, and it responded not with a scream but with silence, a deep, cosmic silence, a shutdown. The breach in space began to close. Back on the bridge, alarms blared. The red light faded to blue. The stars returned to normal. Takahashi watched as the breach vanished completely. And then, The device in Cole's hand clattered to the floor, but Cole was gone. Only his whisper remained on the ship's speakers. Tell them we were warned. But we're worth saving. The Solace floated silently in Mars' orbit, its surface calmer now, no longer groaning or twitching like a creature in pain. The breach was gone. The threat sealed. And inside the bridge, the remaining crew stood motionless, trying to grasp the weight of what had just happened. Cole Reyes was gone. Not dead, not exactly, just somewhere else. Takahashi stared at the device lying on the floor, its glow now a soft, pulsing blue instead of the urgent, angry red from before. It didn't hum or flicker. It just waited, like it knew its job was done. The captain's figure remained at the helm, unmoving, watching the stars like a monument. He hadn't spoken since Cole vanished into the core. He didn't need to. The mission had reached its conclusion. But Earth wouldn't understand any of this. Yarrow broke the silence first, her voice barely above a whisper. He saved us. All of us. Takahashi nodded, jaw tight. He bought us time, that's all. We can't let them send another ship like this. She turned to him, eyes tired and wet. So what do we do? He walked to the comms panel and activated the emergency frequency. The system crackled, patched into the orbital net. Earth Command would be listening. Hell, the whole solar system probably was, after the signal the Solace had triggered. But he didn't give them the truth. He gave them what they needed to hear. This is Lieutenant Commander Takahashi, Echo 7. The Solace is compromised. Biohazard level black. No survivors from the original crew. We are initiating emergency containment protocol. Do not approach. Repeat, do not approach. Yarrow's eyes widened, but she didn't stop him. She knew it too. If anyone tried to dissect this ship, if anyone tried to uncover what Cole had buried, they'd only tear open the thread again. Takahashi keyed in the code to activate the ship's self-destruct sequence. It wasn't dramatic. No countdown voice, just a cold red message flashing on the terminal. Containment protocol engaged. Evacuate immediately. They grabbed only what they needed. Suits, oxygen, short-range beacons. As they moved through the corridors for the last time, Takahashi paused near the core chamber. The door was sealed now, seamless and silent. But he swore he heard something behind it. A breath. A voice. I'm still here. He stared for a moment, his fist clenching. I know, Cole. Then he turned and left. 3 hours later, from a safe orbit, Yarrow and Takahashi watched as the Solace ignited in a silent blaze. The explosion wasn't massive. There was no dramatic fireball, no chunks of debris. The ship just folded inward, collapsing like a dying star, leaving behind nothing but ash and a whisper of energy on their scanners. The gate was closed. Forever, they hoped. Back on Earth, Command received the report. Sanitized. Strategic. The official story became just another tragedy in the cold, dark reaches of space. A rogue AI, a critical reactor failure, a brave crew lost to time. But Takahashi knew better. Every so often he'd wake up in the middle of the night with symbols glowing behind his eyelids. Whispers just out of reach. Dreams that weren't his. Yarrow too. They never talked about it. Didn't need to. The thread didn't forget. And somewhere beyond the stars, beyond space and time, Cole Reyes existed, not as a man, but as a guardian, a part of the ancient system, holding the breach closed from the other side, forever watching, forever whispering, not ready yet, but getting closer.